Welcome back, everyone. So good to be here with you. I'm your host, Anne Berube, and this season on Embodied, we dive deeply into the topic of trust. And today, I'm so happy to have as my guest my new friend, Shamanic Practitioner, spiritual healer, and teacher, Eileen O'Hare. Eileen is the founder and the steward of the Healing House, a spiritual sanctuary in Beacon, New York. She is in private practice as a spiritual healer, and she runs trainings and retreats in shamanism, which has led to the co-creation of a beautiful spiritual healing community called Medicine Spiral. She created the Indian Healing Energy Cards, a teaching and divination deck for the Indian mystical healing tradition. Eileen believes that sound and music are powerful ways to shift energy. She has 3 CDs available on Spotify. Eileen was a successful television writer in LA, working for 2 seasons on Fran Drescher's The Nanny. She started her professional life as a copywriter in the advertising business in New York City. Eileen was called to the spiritual path in 1996. Eileen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, as you
Um,
can tell, that 1996, I'm an elder in the community.
yes, it feels like a real privilege to be able to be in
Wow.
conversation with you
Thank
today.
you. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. You're my younger sister. And so
Mm.
I am thrilled to see my younger sisters doing so well.
Thank you.
Right?
We, you and I met through a mutual friend, Nancy Dancing Light Sherwood,
Yeah.
which is a local shaman here in Nova Scotia, and she's one of my favorite person in the
Mm-hmm.
whole world. And then we had coffee, and I clicked right away. Like for me, I felt like, first of all, I felt you so embodied in the work that you do. And
Oh.
I can tell that right away. And I feel like that I've met like a kindred spirit when that
Oh.
happens. And also your heart is so pure.
Wow.
And
Jeez, tell that to my inner critic, will you? Are you
any,
listening? Inner critic, are you listening?
anytime I'll be happy to tell your inner critic. And so I was delighted when you accepted to come on the podcast. And there's so much we can talk about.
Oh my God.
So much. And can we start with how you were called to the spiritual path?
Mm,
When you say 1996, like, so
hmm
it's probably
Oh my God.
a momentous event.
Well, I was living in Los Angeles, living the dream, as some people would say. I have to say back then, I was kind of cute and slim with like butt length hair. I drove a Toyota Celica convertible. Oh my God, I love that car.
I remember that car.
Right? Oh my God. I love that car. That car actually was responsible for helping me learn about manifestation before I turned on to anything spiritual because I kept seeing it around LA. And then wouldn't you know, I ended up buying it. But anyway, long story short, so I was out in LA and I was, oh my God, I was out there for 6 months and got hired on a national hit sitcom. And holy moly, like a little too much too soon. And my poor system was not strong enough. My gift and my talent for all of that was very strong, thanks to my ancestors. I'm Irish, so we have a tendency to love to entertain and be funny and be smart and stuff. But my system was not strong enough. So after being out there for 3 years, and I made every mistake that people make, new writers in LA make when they hit and they get the money. So, under the dictionary definition of writers, mistakes writers make in Hollywood, my face is there. And right, so when the money started coming, I was like, what? I was I think, really so shocked um, that, and then, unfortunately, there were very cool antique stores in LA too. So I was very attracted. So I ended up collecting it in less than 3 years, about 20,000 pounds of East Indian antiques with metal trim.
My goodness.
And oh my, you should have seen my apartment. It was so beautiful. So I got to indulge. I mean, I did have more fun than a barrel of monkeys, I have to admit. Drank the best champagne and all that. And threw really, I have to say, I threw great parties. But as writers will do, and as people will do when they come into things too fast without a system that's strong enough to handle the success, I frittered it all away. But while I was at the height of my success, though, I remember starting to feel like I wanted to make a joke. I was a comedy writer, right? So I found myself wanting to make the joke to people, geez, do you think it's a problem if I am thinking about driving through like the worst neighborhoods in LA with my convertible top down with $1,000 bills clothespin to my hair?
My goodness.
Right. So, as comedy would go, it's a very silly, and in the right movie, it could be a very funny image. But in my psyche, it was just a real indication that I had had enough. And yeah, and that the money didn't really mean anything to me. I was giving it all away, basically, or gifting it all away, or spending it. Um, and I also think that at the time, it may have been an ancestor, because I remember hearing, as a writer, we hear voices all the time, right? But I remember hearing a voice at one point saying that if you just give all this away, then you will have been worthy of having it in the first place. And at the time, I didn't know, looking back, I don't know if it was an inner, guide figure with wisdom or if it was inner low self-esteem. And I think that's what, when we're in the spiritual worlds and we're akin to hearing voices in our head we need to be mindful of and careful of. And that's why we need community. But anyway, so long story short, I literally looked around my beautiful apartment with those amazing antiques. It looked somewhat like a church, I do have to say. Says
Mm.
the recovering
What was that?
Catholic. And and I remember looking around my apartment and I thought, oh my God, I have not become my mother. I have become my father. And I just looked around and I thought, wow, I am going to have to do this for the rest of my life. I mean, at that point, I was so deeply wounded and traumatized. And I just thought, I'm going to have to perform at this level for the rest of my life in order to support
Yeah.
all of this, because that's what people do, right? You get a big truck full of stuff, and then you got to keep up the long slog. And it was really funny. I just felt something, just literally crack. And I just thought, I just don't want to keep doing this for the rest of my life. And so I called a friend that I knew could handle my joke about the clothespin $1,000 bills to my hair. And he said, well, either I'm getting on a plane and coming out to get you, or you can jump on a plane and come back to New York. And so my joke is that I'm the only person on the planet who flew to New York to chill out.
Yes, exactly.
No, it doesn't happen.
Wow.
Yeah, so I spent, I would say, a full 6 months in the bathtub in my friend's apartment in New York, taking care of his dog for him. And not understanding a thing that was happening to me because I had been raised to like get the money and make us proud. I carry the Irish immigrant wound, the aspiring to be and belong and to live the American dream and all that. So, to put that level of success down, it didn't go well with the people around me. Everybody was like, "What are you doing?" And get back on your feet and get back out, get back in the game, get back in the game, kid.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and it was the bathtub that I just spent days and days and just not understanding what was happening to me. Deeply ashamed because I had dropped the ball in the game, right? Um, and actually, I want to say I actually put the ball down. My soul wants me to say I put the ball down. Um, and it was reading Shakti Gawain's Living in the Light, right? That beautiful pioneer. And had no idea what was happening to me. And I was a red hot mess. I'm here to tell you. If anybody out there is a red hot mess right now, take hope. You're okay. You just got to find the right peeps and the right books and you'll be all right. and jump in a bathtub. And I read the portion of the book that said some people get through life stumbling and falling and picking themselves up, and that's the majority of people. And she said, but some, and then there were the very rare birds that get through easily. She said it's very rare, but some people do get through life relatively easily. I mean, nobody gets out alive, but
I don't know a lot of
me
people.
either. Yeah,
Mm.
I have none. Well, no, that's not true. I do have a couple of people in mind. But the key for me was she said, and then there are those of us that have to get to a place that the culture refers to or thinks of as the bottom. And when you float or fall or drop to the bottom and you actually can accept and acknowledge and deeply, deeply know that you're at this place, this dark, dark place. She said, when that acceptance really, really lays in, then a magic door opens up underneath you and you drop through the bottom and you find that you're not at the bottom, you're at the beginning.
Oh,
And
I
when
love.
is that so cool? It literally saved that line, saved my life. So if Shakti is still out there, I just want to say thank you. Because when I read that, I thought, oh, okay, all right, okay, I'm at the beginning. And
Yes.
I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know what I was at the beginning of. Excuse me, because I was a recovering Catholic, but I think I was out buying a few crystals here and there. And it was a friend of mine who had given me the Shakti Gowan book, but I was not, I did not have a daily practice. I didn't meditate or pray at that point. Now, I probably prayed, but I didn't meditate. I didn't breathe. So these are important, important things for people to learn to do if they're interested in connecting with their soul, is meditate and pray and breathe, especially breathe.
I love that so much. And I think a lot of people can relate the book that changed everything or the book that helped them get through that rock bottom.
You bet.
And did you find that that rock bottom came back? Like there's this spiral that comes back in our
Oh
lives
yeah,
where we hit
for
something
sure.
similar, but
For sure.
not as intense.
Yeah.
But this idea that we revisited this this thing, but see it for
Yeah.
differently for the first time, kind of thing.
Yeah, over and over and over again.
Mhm.
That's what my entire life, like the word spiral is really deeply embedded in my psyche and the psyche of our beautiful community, we call it family community,
Yeah.
community, the spiral community. And we all hold space for each other as we keep, circling around. It's like, but, the next time it's a little deeper, the next time it's a little higher. I'm a
Yes.
shamanic practitioner, so I identify very, very, very daily with the seven sacred directions. So the north, the south, the east, the west, the below, the above, and the within. And
Yeah.
so we perceive of ourselves as spiraling out to these directions too. So the east is new beginnings, right? So if you're spiraling out to the east with a new business, a new relationship, a new baby, a new puppy, whatever it is that's new in your life, or the south, the continuing light. So you could be spiraling out into sustainability, which is, I think, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is what I realized is after my sojourn in LA was that my life was like a lightning bolt, right? So I had very, very high achievement, as many of us do, but it was unsustainable because the level of performance for my highly sensitive, my superpower, which I love that you talk about,
Introverted.
yeah, my
Mhm.
introverted system, could achieve very highly, but not sustain that. I needed to rest and to get away from people. So in order to recharge, I was a classic introvert. So what I decided at that time, and was that I needed the sustainability, that whatever I chose to do ultimately, and I had no idea at the time, and I am not kidding you, I had no clue. Like if I'm not hitting it hard for the cash, if I'm not showing off, if I'm not trying to get somebody's approval with a 30-second television commercial or a 30-minute sitcom. I just didn't know who I was if I wasn't hitting it hard. Yeah, I had a very, very big driver. That immigrant wound in America, we, Canada too, we all suffer from the immigrant wound of like trying to prove ourselves and wanting so desperately to belong. And we carry these wounds, in our DNA.
Yeah, and I find that if the drive comes from the wound, you do burn out, right?
Oh, yeah, baby. But
But it doesn't mean it's not there's not something that's you in the
yeah,
drive. Then it's not doesn't mean that there's no power, but
hmm
if it's mostly driven by the wound of something you're trying to fill with this lack, then you'll hit the wall. You'll hit rock
for
bottom.
sure.
It's
And
kind of
and thank God.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, I've hit those places as a spiritual teacher, driving too hard as a spiritual
Same,
teacher.
same.
Yeah, because we can bring the same trauma, into our spiritual practices as we can our core. I had a bigger ego issue probably in the beginning of my spiritual teaching than I ever had in corporate America, which
Yeah.
it really, when I caught on to myself, I was like, oh dear God. But can I tell you my greatest shadow discovery that I just am so
Please.
proud of myself?
Yes, please.
um,
Then I'll share mine.
okay, okay. Yeah, I love this. Yeah, I started, let's see. So I had the crash and beautiful, beautiful, my breakthrough. I just love that. My breakthrough in 1996. And then, oh, by the way, I want to just tell you, you and all your beautiful people that, the guides that shepherd my practice, the Andean tradition had tried to find me, had tried to like, hello, in 1994. I had all the money. I still had the convertible. I had the platform, because I really am a messenger, I think. And they tried to invite me. And I was so, you know, suffering from arrogance and ignorance and stubbornness in many. I was like, oh, that somebody introduced me to a class. I was like, oh no, no, that sounds so cultish and weird.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
the,
That's
lo-
not me. I'm
the
not going to go there.
no, I would never.
This would never be accepted by my people.
Absolutely. No, no, except my ancient people, right? My
Yeah,
Celtic ancient people would have loved
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
But God bless them. So they tried to like, say hello, come in 1994, but I have to really just I wasn't ready. So I will joke about being arrogant and ignorant and stubborn, but I really, really wasn't ready. And so very sad to have to report I had to lose everything until I was finally ready. So it was 1998 basically when
Okay.
I turned on to my first teacher, and my heart exploded in my first shamanic session. It was just stunning.
So is that when your shadow wound was revealed to you?
Oh, actually, no. That the shadow wound that I'm dying to tell you about was much later. After I started, I'm back on my feet. I'm up. I'm running. I'm bringing the same drive to my spiritual teaching. I'm like, oh, dear God. That's right. So the wound that I discovered in my spiritual teaching was that a part of me, being raised Irish Catholic, I decided not to have children in this lifetime. I
Mm.
really didn't feel capable of doing that, especially back in the day, because of the high level of sensitivity and also, the drive to be professionally successful. I didn't think it was fair with the level of drive I had to bring a child in because I knew I would want to stay home with the child. And at that time, in the late 80s and early 90s, that was really hard to do.
Mm.
Um, so I decided not to have children, but some part of my psyche felt really guilty about that. And it was semi-conscious even, which was interesting because I kept joking, and this is where you have to really listen to people, especially people that like to joke, right? Because the truth is said in jest. I kept saying, I didn't have children, so I should just really be working really hard because motherhood, and I do believe this with all my heart, motherhood is the most important job on the planet. It is the least appreciated job on the planet. It is unpaid labor. So, not to get too much into that, but it breaks my heart actually, what I see, that mothers have to go through so unsupported. And I'm not talking about good husbands out there. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about just the culture at large. I mean,
Mhm.
I just don't get why athletes and even, you know, famous celebrities or whatever, you know, they get paid so much, and mothers and teachers and people that are doing the real work of humanity are not being cared for in the way that they need to be cared for.
It's beautiful. I
Yeah.
agree.
So I felt so guilty at not having children that I just, you know, I just felt like I had to help everybody I possibly could, right? The dysfunctional caretaker part that I was aware of, but not willing, not able to curb at that point because of that guilt. And so it was so cute. I was so proud of myself for not being the obnoxious guru figure. I was determined, you know, because I had sat with that kind of teacher, you know, big ego, big money, messing with their students, you know, sex with students, you know, inappropriate use of funds, alcohol and drugs. I saw it all. All of my teachers had various and sundry um, uh, personality parts that they were struggling with. So I was promising myself, and this, I want to say, everybody, be real careful when you make these kind of, I was promising myself, I will never do that. And I realized that part of my training with all of these folks, I was not only getting the information and the ceremony and the ritual that they were teaching me, but I think Great Spirit was like, and this is what you don't want to do when you start doing this. Okay, don't screw your students. You know, don't rip them off. Excuse me.
Great advice.
You know, yeah, just don't do that,
Yeah.
okay? And I know that, you know, there's a lot of really cute people in workshops, and I just want to say to teachers, like, keep your paws off of them, okay? Just make it a policy that you don't do that.
I think that's where the line between the work that we do and then cults is like, that's
Sure.
where the line is, because there's like a power trip that happens. And if the
Yeah.
work comes from that ego and it's self serving, and
Yeah.
that the person, the teacher is really not there for the growth, fully there for the growth of the students, then
Yeah.
everything,
Can get
everything,
really,
yeah,
yeah.
very ugly and very
Yeah.
chaotic.
Yeah, and I want to just say what I've learned in my beautiful 66 years is that if the teacher is not there for their own growth, there's a problem.
Yes,
Right? Okay. Because,
100%.
you know, every client that sits with me, every student that comes, I am on my best days deeply humbled. I see myself in them. I understand where their pain comes from because I've had it myself or I'm still having it. And I have to be really careful with that. Um, and I just want to, you know, just excuse me for jumping around. I just want to circle back to finish that mother story. So
Please.
I am proud to report that I did not touch any of my students. I did not do that. I'm like so proud, right? I think I touched somebody's hand once, and it felt so awful to me. I was like, oh, even that little slip was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And so, but I was very good, and I'm very clear financially. I'm proud of myself. I hold myself back actually to make sure that I'm in alignment financially with
Mm.
people. So I was really proud of myself for not, you know, messing around as a teacher. But what I didn't see was my shadow, right? My big, you know, I did not have a child. I didn't do that really tough work of being a mother. So I should just work and work and work to help as many people as I possibly could. My drive was coming from that place of guilt. And that's where yeah, I didn't hit a bottom like I hit in 1996, but I was tired. And that's why I love COVID-19.
Yes, I know. And that, I mean, that is, so we share that similar wound. For me, it was the need to be needed, because
Yes. Oh, yes.
if I wasn't needed,
You betcha.
then I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And so there was a guilt and a shame that, if people didn't need me,
Who
I
am
was,
I?
yeah, exactly. Like I was
Exactly.
useless. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, that's
and so
there's the productivity thing too. Like
yeah,
if you're
the
being
drive.
productive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
is, and that's, you know, that's I think capitalistic cultures, you know, I think are really suffering. I think everyone in a capitalistic culture is suffering from the push push, drive, drive, produce, produce. And might I say, as a shamanic practitioner, that we're overproducing, and our poor, poor Mother Earth, our beautiful, poor Pachamama,
Yeah.
is just having a really hard time with our ambition and our drive and our crazy, crazy push to produce. So yeah, I'm concerned.
I think that the antidote is to go deeper into ourselves, because when we embody ourselves even more, we really can be with Pachamama. Like, we can feel her, and we would not push through her earth, through our body. Like, we wouldn't do things to ourselves. We wouldn't, we wouldn't do things to her that we wouldn't do to ourselves. We wouldn't do things to ourselves we wouldn't do to her. Like,
Yeah.
there's an interconnection with her when we can be super present to our entire inner self.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just, listen, we are the Mother Earth. We're
Mhm.
not, see, that's the problem with our oh so intelligent, Cartesian culture. It's just like, I think, therefore I am. And it's like, no, no, no. I breathe, therefore I am. I am just like a tree. I am just like the river. I am a mountain. And when we stop understanding that we are nature, that we are a cell in the body of nature, then we really start misbehaving because we feel bereft and we feel isolated from our mama. We feel isolated from our creator. We feel alone, don't we? And
It
I know,
completely redefines drive to think, to know ourselves like that, because the idea of drive in as nature
yeah,
is not even a word. It's a allowing and inviting.
yeah, it's a being. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a being. It's just like
Mhm.
breathe in and breathe out. And we are so much a part of all of it. And, our beautiful Earth Mother and our beautiful Celestial Mother and Father, well, let's go to it's all, in the singularity is both, right? The masculine and the feminine. But when I am deeply connected to all of that, I am okay. And listen, I'm a professional love bunny, right? I'm a professional shamanic practitioner, and I can get disconnected from Pachamama and the hustle and bustle of technology, right? Hello. I'm proud to say I did get out for a walk this morning because I was like, get outside, you minx.
Yeah, you'll be looking at a screen and talking through a
Exactly.
mic for a little bit.
Exactly. But
Um,
people, and I think that people, we feel that. I mean, we have, people, God bless them. I'm trying to be so prayerful toward everybody, and Easy does it with the judgy stuff. But, we have people that are just loving to shoot rockets off the planet, curiosity about, other places to go. And I just keep feeling, I just want to say, people, could you just pay attention here? Just pay attention to what's going on here, or you're going to, take the same behavior to the next place and just do it all again.
yeah,
And I'm not sure that that's really such a good idea. And of course, I don't get to decide, thank God,
yeah.
because nobody wants Eileen O'Hare in charge of the world. Believe me, we'd all be sitting around the campfire, drumming and dancing, chanting, right? Woo-hoo!
I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about the Andean mystical tradition, because
Oh,
that is what you practice through
it's
everything you do?
it's my container, and they saved my life. These beautiful, beautiful spirits. And it's my tradition is I trained in the bundled mesa tradition from the Andes in Peru, and that's the tribe is called the Quero, Q apostrophe ERO, and they have become very well known. Because they are fulfilling the prophecy of the eagle and the condor flying wing to wing. So the people of the percept, no, sorry, the people of the precept, that's us, like, oh, I'm just precept, I'm creating all these thoughts in my head. I need to sit with the people of the perception. So it's basically heart and mind that really needs to come together. So on a soul level, I must have signed up because, I'm an Irish girl, carrying a tradition from Peru. And sometimes people will challenge me on that and say, well, why do you think you can do that? And I'm like, it's not that I think I can do that. It's just they came and grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and insisted that I help. you know.
I have the same experience with Lemurian Huna
Yeah.
because
Yes.
I was trained by Laura Kealoha in
Yeah.
Hawaii, and I'm
Yeah.
not Hawaiian, but I am
Exactly.
Lemurian.
Exactly.
And so it's about sharing what, yeah, like the communication is undeniable. So you got to
Yeah.
run with it and you got
You
to
have to.
share it, and then with respect and acknowledge
For
the
sure.
tradition as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and respect and acknowledge support, make sure
Yeah.
that you're always giving back to the people that gave so beautifully to you. So I thank
Mhm.
all my teachers. I honor all my teachers.
Mhm.
So yeah, they tried to find me when I was in LA in 1994 because I'm sure they wanted me to have that convertible and all that money because whatever, but I couldn't. So in 1998, the exact same tradition. I'm back in New York now, and I'm once again desperate because I've started to work in television again. I was afraid about money. So it was 1998. I started to work in television again, and I just got sick as a dog immediately, mentally and emotionally, because I'm just not, at that point, I was not meant to do that. And I did love it. One part of me loves writing and loves being funny. I remember I wrote a spec script for an animated series about a dominatrix. It was hilarious. But anyway, so oh God, I'm losing my train of thought here. Oh, but
Maybe.
so the Andy Haley, so the beautiful Caddo tradition. So I studied. They found, so in 1998 I found a course on the East Coast now because I was ready. I just had to
How
give.
did you know to take that course? Like, did
I
you
didn't know.
you didn't.
I didn't know.
It called
Well, no. Here's the thing. I just want to say to people, when you get desperate enough, you end up saying, I don't know who I have to go to and I don't know what I have to do. And I got a song for this after this. I want to sing you my song.
you. Yes.
But I need help. And I just, so who, and you have to humble yourself to go like, I am so screwed up. I so need help. And I finally got to that point of putting down the pride, right? The pride of like, I'm okay. I'll make it. And so I just said to everybody in town, I said, I need help. And I had done a lot of talk therapy early on in life, so I knew it was not talk therapy. No offense. I think talk therapy can be really terrific in its place, but oh boy, it's not a healing modality. Um,
Incremental, and
yeah,
what we're looking for is quantum, and that
yeah,
too.
exactly. Leaps,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I went to a beautiful Reiki healer, a local friend of mine who's a Reiki healer, and somebody pointed me in her direction. I walked through her door. She took one look at me and she said, "Oh, you need to go see my teacher." And her teacher was the apprentice of the master teacher in LA. And so I didn't find anybody. They found me again. And by that point, though, I was humble to the ground. And I just said, I will go anywhere and I will do anything and I will just do whatever it takes. I just was ready. And I'm just smiling at myself, remembering that the woman was an ex nun lesbian still practicing out of some religious institution somewhere. So my first appointment was literally driving into a place that looked like the Catholic school I had been raised in. And as I drove up the driveway, not knowing anything about shamanism, by the way, not one thing, just trusting that whatever was happening was happening. And I just remember driving up the driveway and seeing it was that yellow brick that Catholic schools used back in the day. And I just thought, are you fucking, pardon me if I, sorry.
It's okay.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me now? I'm literally driving into the belly of the beast because Catholic school was
Mm-hmm.
such a thing.
Mm-hmm. I grew up Catholic too.
Oh yeah. God
Mm-hmm.
bless. And many, and I do believe with all my heart that part of my incarnation is about healing that and helping other people heal that, because the guides that shepherd my practice, including the Andean beautiful spirits, say, "Mine the gold in the dung heap of your birth tradition." So they're acknowledging it's a dung heap. It's been there's a lot of shit there, but there is gold in them thar dung heaps. Because at the very center of every religious tradition, every spiritual tradition is, some version of love one another as the self. Like in my version of Catholicism, they just lopped off that as the self part, just love one another. But no, but as the self means self-love. And that's what our culture is now, thank God, thank God, thank God, catching on to and really, really helping people understand that I have to have access to loving myself and being able to forgive myself before I can really be super duper effective for anybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hey, can I sing you my song?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
This
Yeah.
is one of my favorites, and you can find this on my website for free. I just want to give this to everybody so everybody can have it. All right, here we go. So this was 1998. I had just found my way to my first teacher, and it was in that tradition. I was all in, and I'll tell you a story later, maybe. And I'm running around the streets, not knowing what I'm doing. I'm not going to write for television anymore, so I have no income. God bless residuals, but I had no job at that point. So, and that's not good for an Irish Catholic girl to not have a job. So I'm running around the streets trying to stay calm and trying to do my spiritual work. And it was one day I just literally felt this song fall out of the sky for me. And this really is from spirit. So I surrender, I trust, I am grateful. 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 Show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. I am willing. Show me the way, show me the way, and guide my steps. So that's a song, and I just sang it over and over and over and over when I would be the most afraid. And I still sing it to this day. And every student that's ever come through me says that that's their shower song. That's the one piece of music that they learned sitting with me that they take with them. And so I hope it helps anybody that hears it.
That is so beautiful.
Isn't
It
it?
just rained through me. It was
Thank you,
so
honey.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us,
Thanks, darling.
Eileen.
Thank
Wow.
you.
And
It's a lifesaver.
yeah, and it reminds me of, instead of asking what you want out of life, ask what, life wants to do through you. It's
Exactly.
life with a capital L, like just I'm here, use me, like show me the steps. Like I love, love, love that. And I think for 2025, it is the mantra.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
allow
my
yourself
gosh.
to be done by life. Like
Woo.
don't try to control,
Yeah.
because it won't feel good to white knuckle anything.
No, especially now. I think that, one of the beautiful, that's why I love shamanism so much, because there's just so many nature metaphors. It's like right now we are swimming in a very swift current, are we not? Like the world is going very, very quickly, technology very, very quickly, so much money, allowing people to do things so, so quickly. AI, chat GPT. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I think the beautiful image of like lying back and just really trusting the spirit of water, and imagining yourself lying back and just allowing currents to take us and not swimming against the tide because it's a strong tide right now. We
Yeah.
know that. And so just trust the idea of surrender and trust the idea of relaxing and allowing and allowing and allowing because, there is a vast intelligence that is fully aware of everything that's happening to each one of us. And I just believe with all my heart that I am a cell in the body of creation, and so are you. And that the body of creation, the entire body of creation, knows exactly what it's doing, and that we as individual cells do not. And so I get it that it's hard to surrender and trust and be grateful. And it's hard to say to something other than ourself, show me the way. But it really is the key for a soul's evolutionary journey, right? And that's what people like you and I are here to do for ourselves first and then for others. Like this is our soul's journey, everybody. So how's your soul doing? How's your heart doing? Like, you can have the biggest bank balance, in the world. And you can have, I mean, Toyota Celica. Really? Who cares when you can have a Maserati, right? It's so cute that I thought that was so cool back then.
Yeah.
But that, is that your soul car? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And maybe it is for some people. Maybe the Maserati is really the car their soul wants the most. I don't know. It's not for me to decide. But for me, for me, my soul car these days is a 2005 Toyota Camry that I inherited from my mother. I finally got the cream puff I dreamed about early on in life, and it was my mother's.
Oh my Oh, I do
Mm,
think that it's an invitation, constant invitation to deepen our trust
exactly.
in that life with a capital L. And you said like something other than ourselves, and then there's also this moment where you recognize it's not other than yourself. It's just not your intellect. It's not your
Exactly.
ego, but it
The
is
small
really
self.
you, and you
Mhm.
are that wise movement of energy, and you are that impersonal, creative, and intelligent, like spark and light. And so you're really not asked to put your to surrender and fall backwards into the arms of a god on a cloud somewhere, or like a third party here. Like it's actually you, the great you.
The great you. I think that and yeah, yes, I just think that we need to be very mindful and careful
Mm-hmm.
of it's me, because it can be overwhelming to our system.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just so the great us. I mean, I think that's where there's Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian shamanism has like this big giant eye,
Mm-hmm.
that they talk about. I heard a beautiful, beautiful beatific voice late at night driving through a beautiful country road around here that just whispered in my ear, "It is only I." So that's what you're talking about, and I agree. I think we just need to be really mindful and careful, because the small self has lots of it's a tricky path. It's a tricky
Mm-hmm.
path. And so, yeah, the capital S self and then the small s self. So it's
Exactly.
just, and it's a lifetime of practice, isn't it? To really,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, to be
Oh,
really, really,
absolutely.
yeah.
It is, and it's a lifetime journey, and it is the life. Like that is what we're here for, is
Mm.
to deepen that over and over again, up the spiral or out the spiral.
Yeah.
One of the ways that you share your gifts with the world, Eileen, is through the family constellation.
Hmm.
And you told me a little bit about it when I saw you in the fall. And it was the second time I heard that in like a week. So I paid attention.
Mm.
So I went and watched the Netflix show. What is it called? It's called
Another self.
Another Self.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And it was new to me, completely new to me.
Hmm.
But very fascinating. And it does resonate with even with the Lemurian Huna that I share with people, like that the information is in the field,
It is.
and it's just about, being the right antenna
Mm-hmm.
to receive it. Can you tell me more about that work that you do with people?
Yeah, I totally will. I just want to say yes, to be the right antenna, and that's where I just want to just always, always help myself first, and then
Mm-hmm.
other people. Meditation, breath work, nice long walks in the woods, so that you really develop a beautiful practice of being able to quiet the mind. Because family constellation is a beautiful, beautiful modality. And I have trained in it for about 3 years now. Um, and it is a beautiful modality that's about intergenerational trauma. Some people might think of it as epigenetics, that we can inherit
Mm.
tendencies, we can inherit diseases, we can inherit. Shamanism used to call it ancestral curses. When you find
Okay.
that
Yeah.
they're the alcoholism runs through the veins or whatever. So it's a very beautiful and powerful modality, and it was founded by a beautiful man named Bert Hellinger. He was a German Catholic priest back in the day, and then he went to Africa and studied with the Zulus, and then came back and did Gestalt and gave up the church and committed fully to the psychology. And so he started. I don't have a date for you, but it's decades ago now. And then it went into the hands of followers, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful practice of people coming together. Usually, you can do it individually, but I think it's best practice coming together in a circle. And it's the tradition of Gabor Mate says we get traumatized in isolation. We heal in community. That's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why I love it so much.
Mm.
So we sit in circle, and then somebody can bring a particular issue that's troubling them. And then from the circle, the person asks people that are present to represent their mother or their father or their uncle or their grandfather or a tendency. I remember I repped an eating, I repped eating disorder for one woman one day. And that was how I discovered that eating disorder for her actually was a gift. Like it helped her tremendously, which so it's very very mind boggling, which is always good, right, to boggle our minds,
Yeah.
and heart opening. I practice it. I trained in Constellation, but I also found that in many of the circles that I was going to, either people were anti-emotion because they had been trained in a very Germanic, and so there was so there and there's all sorts of theories about this. So I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of it, but I felt that sometimes that I felt constrained in some of the circles that I was in. So I took my shamanic background. And then I've also trained and practice. My work is informed by internal family systems, parts work, and family constellation together. And parts work is where we go deep, deep, deep inside, inside, inside into our internal system and identify parts of ourself that may not know. And in my case, that I'm 66. So there may be parts of me that are still acting out an old 5-year-old belief that, I'm not good enough for school or whatever it was. And so I combine shamanic practices of rattling, chanting, dancing. And because this is what our ancestors knew. This is what our ancestors knew to do, that you move the body. You have to, you have to move. You want to move the voice. You want energy to move, because if we're not feeling well, it means that something's stuck, right? And shamanism is all about flow. It's like get moving. What's the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the space inside of us, and then out there, those macrocosmic elemental energies that we can connect with. So I combine in something I call shamanic soul constellation. Simple shamanic practices. You don't need to have any experience with them at all. We'll take you through the very simple practice of that. And then parts work. So we'll get very curious about somebody that will come, will say, well, is a part of you, tell us about that part of you that's so angry at your mama, or tell us about that part of you that is so afraid to whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can play that out in the circle. And like you said before, it's the field, right? This beautiful, beautiful field of knowing, the knowing field, or the healing field, some people call it. And so we surrender to that beautiful field. And even as the facilitator, it's especially the facilitator's job to surrender to the field. And I feel like I'm like a jukebox now. Spirit knows all the data. that I've got in my head. So they'll play me like a jukebox, or from in my work, they'll send pictures, or I'll hear a voice or some clue in terms of like the next movement of the soul, it's called, for the client. Because if we are when we are suffering, as I said, it's something that's stuck. And so what we're looking for is movement. So in the field, you will have people that represent different people in the client's life or different situations. And you can literally, it's like moving people around in the field and asking questions, and the representatives of the mother or the father or the uncle or whoever are picking up like acupuncture needles or
Wow.
like tuning forks. They're just, and you don't have to have any experience, and you can do this, I assure you, because our brains, our central nervous systems are completely set up to be connected to what we think of as the field. I mean, we can think of it as like the spiritual World Wide Web, right? The internet has helped us to
Yeah.
understand how incredibly connected we all are. Well, sometimes we don't need, these microphones and the headphones. We can communicate just on the energetic realms. So people are able to just tap in, quiet down. That's why I'm saying meditation is great. So you've got experience in quieting your own mind and any performance anxiety, and then people can receive information that is uncanny. It reminds me of evidentiary mediumship in a way, because there's no explanation. Like the client hasn't told you that their mother is X, Y, and Z, but the representative for the mother will say, we'll check in and say, how is the mother feeling? And the rep will say X, Y, and Z. And then that gets the client's attention.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and then we just gently take our time. We're listening. It's just a listening practice, isn't it? It's just
Mm.
like listen, feel, sense, attune, just attuning um, to the greater intelligence, and attune to the field of which we are, this beautiful, beautiful cell that has every right to be in the field and to be attuning and to be playing and enjoying and moving. So movements of the soul. I guess that's really that's what everybody's doing, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
movements of the soul, right?
Yeah. And allowing that, just making space for that communication to
Yes.
happen,
Yes.
and then, sometimes even speaking and taking action from that place so that
Exactly.
your reality changes and shifts and you create something new and something
Exactly.
beautiful for
Exactly.
yourself.
Yeah, and the cool thing about and the reason why I love my job so much is that I'm fundamentally a circle leader. Like I love working one on one with people, but my greatest joy and my greatest jam is circle leading. I just
Mhm.
love it. Bringing people together. That's one of
Me
my,
too. Me
yeah,
too.
right.
Love the group
Come,
work.
just
Oh,
love it
it's
because
magical.
it is
Everything.
magical, and there are people we're supposed to meet. It's so wonderful because we do this beautiful spiritual gazing and chanting to open every circle. That spirit told me that we want to give you this chant, and this is your opening chant. So whatever you do a circle, you start with this. And so we chant together, and we call in our beautiful spiritual guides and whatever. And then everybody's invited. Open your eyes, and each person in the room has to connect eye to eye in a spiritual gaze with each person in the room, because we want to generate that magic carpet. We want to generate that web, soul to soul, from everybody in the room. We want to get into that circle mode versus the hierarchical, the pyramidal, that we've been living for so long, where there's one guy usually at the top and everybody's got their head up here, which is profoundly disempowering to everybody with their neck up like that. So we want to come into circles. Um, and it just creates this beautiful, beautiful understanding that look, I'm the facilitator, but you might have come to that circle to meet the person across the room from you, and it has nothing to do with Eileen. And that's why community, humility, really understanding that the people that come and sit in circle with me, it really is a constellation of souls that have been called to come together for whatever reason. And, it reminds me of, that what my guides told me years ago, and that I take great hope in, and what keeps me going every day, even through the working too hard or trying too much or whatever, you keep running into the shadow bits. But they said the world is going to be brought into balance through small circles of light.
Oh, I love
Isn't
that.
that beautiful?
Yes.
So there ain't no Messiah coming. Nobody's coming to rescue us. And believe me, there's some days I'm like, could the aliens just come down and straighten this all out for us, please? And
I
no, the
like that a
world,
lot.
isn't that beautiful? Because
Yeah, it
that's what
also
you do,
really, yeah, I know. It just makes me feel really good because
right?
it feels to me when I'm doing it that there's nothing more important.
Right.
And anyway, there's nothing more meaningful to me. And it feels really, really important. But then, I don't know if you had that feeling when the pandemic hit, like I had to ask myself, is gathering still what I'm supposed to do when it's possible that we'll never be able to gather again? Like, and every time I asked the question, it was so strong. No, this is it. Like, this is it. Keep gathering,
Oh,
keep
for sure.
and so that was a cool invitation too to really ask and know like no this is the way.
Exactly. Yeah. When the pandemic hit, I just went into spirit. First of all, I was thrilled because I needed rest. I have to be
Yeah.
really honest. And people that that had to gear up and get on to those big Zoom teachers, I was like, nope. And I don't ever, unless Spirit tells me that I have to work on Zoom and do that and teach on Zoom, I don't want to. I just really
Yeah.
believe that I'm a mammal and I want to
Yeah.
be in the room with people. I'm
Yeah.
deeply personally connected, and that's how I want to work.
I get
But
depleted from looking at a screen, so I
for
had to
sure,
drop some of those.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy studying over Zoom and I don't enjoy teaching over Zoom. I do it if I have to, but
Mhm.
it's rare for me. But oh, I lost my train of thought. Too bad. It was a good one. Shoot,
During the
Erica,
pandemic,
come back, come back. A
during the
sponsor.
pandemic
Oh,
you
I know.
shared.
During the pandemic, God bless. Thank God, Spirit said, accept what comes. And just like everybody else, I was terrified. I think 4/5 of my income streams get cut off. And my spiritual sanctuary had to close, and I don't want to tell you any of the bad stories, but I was limping along, so I was making just enough money so that I couldn't collect unemployment at all. So I was like, and I really that I did, absolutely was in fear, just like everybody else. Um, but Spirit said to me, accept what comes. And that's when that's the thing of like, okay, and then, you know, lean back into the water, accept what comes,
Yes.
accept what comes. And, sure enough, there were a lot of people that needed to talk to me over the phone. I had not really had a big phone practice. I didn't have, I don't think, any Zoom practice, I think, at that point, because I was all in person. And so, no, I learned, one-on-one work in Zoom is great. So now I work with people internationally now over Zoom. So COVID opened me up in that way, whether I wanted to be opened or not, she said. So stubborn. Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our
Oh,
conversation.
where?
Oh, there's so much more we could talk about, but
Hmm.
I do want you to tell me a little bit more about the courage that it takes to live counterculture. It's something that you shared with me,
Yeah.
because I think people do need to understand that courage right now.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of courage to do this work and to really commit to soul work. It really is. And it's exploding around the world. So it's wonderful. There's more and more places to go. But it takes a lot of courage. So I just want to say to people that you need community. You need local community. And I get it. Zoom's cool and travel and flying around. Like I flew all over the world to train because I had to back in the 90s. But local community where you are having weekly meetings with people, monthly meetings with people, because it takes so much courage and we need support. Like we have I am so proud. My greatest joy and is the circle of people in our community, and we call each other and we bring soup when we're sick, and because a lot of people have fallen away from church and temple and synagogue and mosque, and so it's up to each one of us to create these places that we feel safe and that we can be held and we can explore our shadow together, because it's scary, because that never ends. It doesn't matter how highfalutin you might be in the spiritual circles, we're still always needing to look at our shadow. And it's best to look at that shadow with people that we feel safe and sacred with.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that
Thanks.
so much. Yeah.
Well, it's been so amazing to be with you.
What would you Where can people find you? And is there something exciting or, you know, that you're doing right now that you'd like people to know about?
They can find me at eileenohare.com. That's kind of
Mhm,
simple.
mhm.
And as I said, I work over Zoom. I work one-on-one with people. The first Saturday of every month, we do the Shamanic Soul Constellations at my beautiful spiritual sanctuary, the Healing House in Beacon, New York. I do have a Monday night group if people are too far away to come to the groups. I have a Monday night group from 7 to 8. It's a women's healing circle. It's just a beautiful practice group that I'd love to invite anybody to join. Just be in touch with me. You'll find my cell phone. You can give me a text or an email. And I also, though, I would also really and truly at my age love to have people invite me to come to places and to do circles with them so that they can do all the administration
Yeah.
and I can show up and teach. So I'm available to come to you if you want to get a circle of people. I just want to say, though, that I don't want to do huge circles of people. My circle's limit at 22. And I'm really probably more comfortable at like 13 or 15 because my best work is done incredibly personally. I don't want to do, I've always been felt lost in larger circles. So I don't
Yeah.
want people to feel lost.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that so much. This is idea of also like of really belonging is such a propeller to healing and growth and
Yes.
expansion.
Yeah.
And I remember when I published my first book, my editors, the owner of the publishing house had said like, if you're not known in your local community, like you won't be able to have an impact on the larger world. So it really
Mm.
starts with sharing and being with the people on your street, in your neighborhood,
Mm.
in
That's
the,
good to hear.
right. And
That's very good to hear. Thank you.
yeah, and that really impacted me in a big way because that's where it starts. It starts from within and then out close to you and then out into the world.
Exactly. And also, though, it also comes back to us as human beings. It's like, look, I need support. I need love. I need care. I
Mhm.
need soup when I'm sick too.
Yeah.
So it's very humbling to be local because people do get to know you very well. I've got, my community could tell you some tales.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
it's just really, really important that local support. And I think especially in these days that everything is so out of control, that we have local people that love us and know us and that we can care for each other and hold space for each other while we do our soul's evolutionary journey, as I like to call it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometime and hopefully soon, I'm gonna make the way down to Beacon, New York, and be in a circle with you.
You are
I'm
so welcome.
feeling a strong pull to just
Yeah,
be in your presence,
for sure.
Eileen. And so,
Thank you.
thank you. I have so
Thank you.
much gratitude for your time
Oh,
today. I appreciate the work that you do in
thank
the
you,
world
darling.
and how you support people.
I love it.
And if anything I can do to support you, please let me
Thank
know.
you. Well, one thing I do want to say, like, people coming here is my home is a spiritual sanctuary, and people do come for 24-hour retreats or weekend retreats that people are welcome to come and just get
Oh,
away from it all. They can
wow.
come by themselves. They can come with a couple can come and do a retreat.
So
And
I
that's
can
really
come.
wonderful. Yes, you can. You can come and do a retreat with me
I'm
for
on my
sure.
way as soon as
You're
we
so
hang up.
cute. You are so
Oh,
cute.
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good for people to know.
Thank you. I
Thank
love you.
Love you so, so
Such an
much.
opportunity. Thank you.
Mm.
Words on the street, they say that you don't care about me anymore. But you know it's in the way they walk, in the way they talk. I don't believe a thing, I don't believe a thing they say. You know I love you anyway, anytime, any place. You mean the world to me, you mean everything to me. And that's why why I say, this is your life.